Okay, so I'm just going to get a nice stretch, and I'm just going to really evenly just shade inside of my template, going right up into the edges. I'm not a huge fan on outlining for powder brows, just because sometimes how they heal and fade over the year. I'd rather just get a nice even pass in and guarantee that even fade out. Doing pendulum motion, so I'm back and forth in the skin. That's all I really want, is just get this shape in with a nice first even pass that I'll then work and layer onto. I'm just going to run that along there, just along that white pencil. I'm using the MicroPMU 1RL acupuncture needle, 0.30 diameter. Okay, so once I get to my arch, I always like to just do a quick check. So I just want to have a look how that pigment's going in on Kelly's skin. So stretch the skin in a nice firm white all the way through. So you see there, I've just got like a tiny shadow underneath, which is fine. That's literally all I need for my first pass to get my shape in. So it's just like a really faint shadow of pixels. Okay, so I know I'm definitely not going too heavy on her. We're not oversaturating, so I will keep going. So I tend to do about 4 passes on each area, moving up and down through my template on my first pass. Remember, when you're shading, to edge forward very, very gradually. You don't want to jump forward too quickly. Now when we're doing an ombre as well, because we want to get that fade across the top and front, once I get to around this point on the top of my brow, I'm going to pointillism just the top edge of my template and the front in, and then I'll whip shade up to it, just to ensure that I never put too much colour there on the first pass, to allow for that blend. And then just across my drawing, I'm just going to tap a little bit of colour just to put a really faint shadow here. Remember, when you're doing pointillism as well, never to do your dots in a straight line. They always want to be quite random. I don't rub this pigment off now. I'm going to let it pigment soak with a little bit of push, which is really nice and calming on the skin and just encourages that pigment to penetrate in. And then if you are using any secondary numbing, you can apply that now as well. Okay, so we're going to clean off this first pass. So you can see I've just got a really light pass in there. Just I can see my shape, but not too much colour. It's not too strong. Just gives me more flexibility to then build and work where I want the colour. If you go in too strong sometimes on that first pass, then you spend longer blending it out. Now you can see we've got Kelly's natural hair outside of this shape, so what I'm going to do first is just tidy the brow up, just so I've got a good visual now of the actual template and shape. So just using a disposable razor, I'm just going to get rid of any excess hair that's outside of my first pass. So when we are doing our ombre, we want to kind of start to see the fade from about here. And try, if you just imagine like a diagonal line from the bottom of the bowl coming up to just in front of your arch. So this side of that line will be your darker, stronger colour, and through the top and the front will be the lighter colour. Now, depending on how dense you want your brow, you could even now switch to a bigger needle. Like sometimes, because Kelly's got quite a lot of hair, I'm not going to. But if a client doesn't really have much natural brow and I really want to add depth, I might switch to like a free shader, just to pack it in a bit more densely. So it just really depends on my client and, you know, the brow that they have currently. Okay, so go at that way for me, Kelly. So I'm just going to start building now, adding a bit more depth through this area. And stretch that hair out the way so I can see my drawing. So I'm still doing a pendulum movement, just sharpening it up now. And then I'll start working on building this colour up. So I'm just going to keep working until I've built the density up to where I want it. Now this technique, you can take it as soft or as strong as you want. It's just how much you're going to layer that colour. I tend to still try and keep my ombre quite soft and fluffy. Again, it's just my personal style. If you want to take them a bit stronger, a bit more defined, then you can just layer more colour in, or you could again switch to a bigger needle just to pack that colour in a bit quicker. When you are working over natural hair as well, just make sure you're pushing the hair out of the way and making sure that you're getting underneath it. So I'm still going to do another pass over this with the first colour, which is what helps you to create that transition, but I just want to build this up as strong as it needs to be. And we know from about here is where I'm going to start that fade, so I'm not going to put as much. Okay, just put this over there. So I want to take this darkness all the way along to the bottom of the bulb, but I need to make sure that I leave enough room for my blend. So I'm going to keep this quite light and thin here. I'm just going to rub a little bit of push into the skin, just keeps it nice and soft whilst you're working, keeps everything nice and calm. So that's my dark redwood. So I've concentrated more on the arch and tail and along the base of the brow. Now we're going to go back in with the slightly cooler, lighter colour all over, and now work on blending this out as well at the same time. So that's the bulk of it done. Now we just need to work on our blending. I'm just going to just neaten up underneath just a little bit more. And then I'm going to drop my machine speed and whip shade towards the top and front of the brow. So I'm not doing pendulum now, I'm just whip shading one direction in the skin. And I'm leaving the skin every time at my edge. Always start your blend back further than you need it, because if you start too close to the front, sometimes you don't give yourself room, like enough room to achieve that blend. Using the two colours, it really helps to bring the blending part together if you overlay them. Okay, so I've wiped this brow off, and then we're going to wipe this side off, and then we're going to have a look at them both together so that I can then see if I need to do any final tweaks anywhere else. And normally, if anything, it's a little bit of pointillism around the front, just checking our balance. So I'm just going to stretch the brows out. I just want to have a look, checking that my angles are the same on the front. I just need to put just a tiny shadow there, I think. Maybe just a tiny bit more on her tail there. And then I'm going to just do a tiny bit more shading there, just because on this side, she's got much more brow hair here. And on this side, she doesn't have any hair where we've lifted the brow. So it's about just trying to match the density across both brows as well. So I'm just going to literally tap a tiny, tiny bit there and a tiny bit on her end here, and then a small whip shade through there, and then we are done.